He's like, get me out of here. Oh, this is gonna be a rough one. Isn't he cute? Look at him, he's just a little owl. Greetings and salutations, everybody. My name's Hope, and I am currently in recovery from anorexia. Today's video is the 6th part of my series where I talk about my anorexia and kind of how everything has led up to this point. Specifically, in this video, I wanted to talk about my anorexia, basically where I really started to get sick. So I started to become really stressed at my job, that new job that I had mentioned in my previous video that I had gotten. It was a really good job, but my managers and just everything in general about the job was very demanding, and not in the sense that I was doing hard labor, but mentally it was demanding. I knew that I needed to keep the job even though I didn't necessarily like it, and it wasn't what I saw myself doing long term, because it paid so well, and Pool Shark and I had our own place, and I was worried about the rent and all of the bills and getting everything paid. I was like terrified of not being able to pay those things. I don't know, that's like, I guess, another control thing. I don't know, us and our eating disorders and control, am I right? Since I had become so stressed at this job and stuff, I started to restrict my food more and more because I could control it. I still wanted to lose weight. I still wasn't thin enough in my eyes. Every time I looked in the mirror, I still just thought I was disgusting and fat and everything. So it was kind of a mixture of getting a high off of starving myself, but also I couldn't afford a gym membership. So restricting my food down to the little bit that I was eating was pretty much the only way that I could lose weight, because I couldn't go to the gym and burn off calories. During the week, while I was working, because I worked Monday through Friday, 8 to 5, I would eat a packet of oatmeal for breakfast. I would make it with water, but then I would put a little bit of almond milk in it, and then I would put a bunch of cinnamon and Splenda in it. And then for lunch, I would have 2 rice cakes with peanut butter, and then for dinner, I would come home and I would have a 100-calorie yogurt and a cup of warmed almond milk with some espresso in it. And I would put a sugar-free coffee syrup in it to sweeten it. And then that would be what I ate every day. On weekends, I would stay in bed for the majority of the day, and I would fast because I would only drink tea up until later in the night, and then for dinner, like around dinner time, I would eat something that I actually wanted to eat, like a Crunchwrap from Taco Bell or a couple scoops of ice cream, and then drizzle some peanut butter on top or something. And it was just like heavenly because I hadn't eaten all day and just drank tea. So when you're restricting so much, you basically dream about food all the time. That's what I would do, is I would dream about food, or like I would look up pictures on Pinterest of food, or watch YouTube videos of people eating lots of food, things that I couldn't eat or I didn't allow myself to eat. So besides loving chocolate and peanut butter, I obviously love cinnamon. So I love cinnamon rolls. I remember one time, it was on a weekend, and I made this like cinnamon roll coffee cake, and I had made it with Splenda and everything so that it wouldn't make me sick. But the frosting that I wanted to use did have a lot of sugar in it, because it's really hard to make a sugar-free frosting, especially one that tastes good. And I wanted this cream cheese frosting. I had been like dreaming about it, right? I made the cake. It was this 8x8 pan, and I took so much care in making it. After I took it out of the oven, I frosted it. I remember I had a little piece, and then it was like something switched in my head. I wanted to eat the whole pan. I came back into the kitchen after I had finished the piece that I had cut myself, and I just ate the frosting off of like half the pan, because that was what I was really craving, was not so much the cinnamon roll cake itself, but the frosting. And so I scraped off the frosting and like some of the top of the cake, and I just shoveled it in. And of course, because of the gastric bypass surgery and not being allowed to have a bunch of sugar in one sitting without getting deathly ill, I had realized what I had done. And I started to feel terrible because I knew the calories, but then I also knew that I was probably going to get sick. So then what happened is I ended up in the bathroom terribly, terribly sick. I was going through what they call dumping syndrome. If you don't know, dumping syndrome is for people who have had weight loss surgery. It's something that they deal with when they've eaten too much sugar or fat or something along the lines that upsets their stomach to the point where the best way I can describe it is you feel like you're having an anxiety attack and you're also extremely nauseous and you feel like you're going to throw up but you can't throw up and it's coming out the other end and you're cramping and you're like sweaty and you just want to die. It's absolutely awful. And I remember Pool Shark came into the bathroom because I had been MIA for however long. And he's like, "Are you okay?" And I'm like, I'm so sick." And he's like, "What's wrong?" And I was like, "Cinnamon roll cake." And he's like, "I thought you made that with Splenda." And I'm like, "I did, but I ate all the frosting." And he was just like, "Okay, well, let's just..." He was so worried because I was like crying and I'm just like sick. And so he helped me get into bed and then I was just like curled up in bed and I remember I wanted to die because I was like, I just ate so many calories. I also feel like I'm gonna die because I'm in so much pain and I feel so sick. I just fell asleep basically, crying and being upset with myself and being miserable. Restricting those foods and restricting as much as I was led to that. I mean, what else is there to say, you know? I kept losing weight and it was slow, but like I kept losing weight and I would weigh myself like every couple days. I would always make sure that it had been 12 hours since I had last eaten. I'd weigh myself naked. That was kind of a routine for me. And I started to notice, and I had noticed this previously, but it started to get a lot worse, and it was extra skin. I started to notice it a lot in my stomach area and my thighs and my upper arms. It was a very big deal to me because it's always been a reminder of me being at my heaviest weight. So it just kind of fueled the fire for my eating disorder to think that I still had weight to lose, even though it was just skin. Because in my eyes, when I look in the mirror, it still looks like fat, but it's just skin. But the way that it's on my body, to me, in my head, my eating disorder is like, "You're disgusting, you're still fat, look at all this." I would just stand in the mirror and look at my skin and just like pull on it and just stare at it and try and suck it in. I would body check with like my ribs and stuff and my collarbone and feel it. It just comforted me to be able to see my ribs and bones, I guess. It sounds really bad. Being able to feel them. I don't know, I felt like I was doing it right. I don't know what am I doing right? Starving myself? Killing myself? I guess. In my mind, I couldn't differentiate between the skin and extra fat. So naturally, I got really depressed and I started to isolate myself from everyone in my life. I just kind of had this routine where I would go to work, come home and take care of the cats maybe a little bit, hang out with Pool Shark, go to bed and do it all over again the next day. Sometimes Pool Shark and I, on weekends, we would go out to eat because I would be okay with it because I had restricted all day. For the most part, we stayed home because of me and I just didn't want to go anywhere. I mean, I've never been a social person, but my eating disorder really made it so that I hated going out and doing anything. I didn't really talk to my family because Pool Shark and I lived about 20 to 30 minutes away from my family. They would want me to come out and visit and stuff. I didn't want them to see me because I knew that they would be concerned that I had lost too much weight, or they would want to talk about weight, or food would be involved somehow and I'd have to explain why I'm not eating, why I'm eating, what I'm eating, blah blah blah. And I just didn't want to deal with the headache. So it was just easier to isolate myself. Pool Shark and I had completely different schedules. I'd be awake during the day and then he would be up all night. There was only a small window of time where we'd be around each other. So that just added to me being depressed. I was exhausted and weak all the time. And I was really crabby every time food got brought up. If anyone brought up anything about my food or what I was eating or when I was gonna eat, I just freaked out. My family started to get really worried about me. One night after I got off work and I had just gotten home, there was a knock at the door, and it was my mom and my grandma and my aunt. And they came to do an intervention basically, and they started crying and they said, "Oh my gosh, you're so thin, this is out of control, you need help, blah blah blah." I didn't like fly off the handle. I tried to handle it calmly. It was like a calm angry, you know, when you're like so mad that you can't even scream. I just calmly tried to tell them, "I'm fine, I'm eating, I'm really tired, don't worry about me, everything's fine." They tried to tell me, "You're not fine, you're really sick and you need help." And I just ignored them, and I asked them to leave. And I mean, what are they gonna do? I was 24 at the time? 24, 25? 24. I don't know. I don't know how old I am, apparently. They left, and I was really mad at them. But they did finally leave. I, of course, was lying to them because I wasn't eating that much a day. I always made sure that my caloric intake was roughly under 1,000 calories. Like, I wouldn't go over 1,000. So after this intervention, I call it, Pool Shark sat down with me and he told me how worried he was about me, and he thought that him and I could handle it. We would figure it out as a couple. He tried really hard, and I tried to explain to him how afraid I was of getting back to my starting weight before my gastric bypass surgery, and that was a big fear in the back of my mind, and why food scared me so much, and why I just didn't want to eat, and it was just easier to restrict. So we had many long talks about that, and we talked about foods that I could eat and should eat, and we tried to figure it out. Well, I mean, I was already a big fat liar up till this point, but I had to become more crafty with my food and how I restricted, because now Pool Shark was watching me more, but he was trying to help, and I just wasn't having it because I was backseat to my eating disorder. I didn't care about anything but losing weight and getting smaller and smaller. So what I would do is, for breakfast, because he wouldn't see me eat, so for breakfast at work I would still have the oatmeal that I was having previously, and then I would have a cup of almost black coffee. It would have like a little bit of creamer in it, just enough to change the color, and then I would add a bunch of Splenda to flavor it. And then for lunch I would have something that added up to 100 calories, whether it be a 100-calorie granola bar or some animal crackers or something that I knew was 100 calories that I had measured out, or that was pre-measured out because it was pre-packaged. Then I would also have another cup of coffee, same thing, barely change the color with creamer, and then add a bunch of Splenda. And then for dinner, since Pool Shark would be home and we'd be together, then I would eat something more calorically dense. Usually it was ice cream, because ice cream is like my favorite thing ever. And I would have 2 scoops of ice cream, the no sugar added kind, with peanut butter, and usually sprinkle some Reese's peanut butter cups like crumbled up on top. That was like my favorite thing. It's still like one of my favorite things, and I don't know if that's because it's like a safe food and it like reminds me of that. That'd be really fucked up, but I think it's just because I genuinely love ice cream, like all kinds, but mostly chocolate with peanut butter. I'm gonna start talking about ice cream, so I'm gonna continue the story. I feel like such a shitty person because everyone was just trying to help me, whether it be my parents and my grandma and my aunt or Pool Shark. They were all just trying to help me, and all I could do is say fuck you and just do my own thing. And I knew that they were all right. I knew that they just wanted the best for me. They wanted to see me healthy, but in my mind I was like, no, I'm gonna get fat and then everything's gonna be ruined. Like, they don't understand. It's like I lied to everybody about what I was eating all the time. That was all I did. My whole life was centered around trying to control my food and my eating. So I don't know how much I can actually say about this. Some of you might not know I was on the TV show Skin Tight. My mom had written into the show and got a email back from them. So over the course of this period that I'm telling you that I was restricting, I was also trying to get stuff ready for that, while I'm being this really shitty person and lying to my whole family and the love of my life. On top of everything else, my grandpa's cancer came back. I was so selfish, and I didn't want to feel anything regarding my grandpa's cancer, that I just stayed away. He started to get really sick, and I maybe went and saw him twice before he actually passed away. And I wasn't even there when he passed away. And I wasn't there for my family when they needed me the most. I was just so selfish and caught up in the eating disorder. After he passed away, our whole family kind of fell apart. Everyone just kind of separated after that. There's no way I'll ever be able to forgive myself for that. There's no excuses, there's nothing. That's something that I just have to live with now for the rest of my life, that I was too selfish and absorbed into my eating disorder, that I wasn't there for my family and I wasn't there for my grandpa. So if you're questioning if you should start recovery and you're wondering what's the point or reasons why you should, your family, your loved ones, the love of your life is the biggest reason, because time spent with them over time spent counting calories or over exercising or binging and purging or doing anything in regards to your eating disorder, it wastes your life away. So after my grandpa passed away, I finished filming with Skin Tight, and like I said, I'm not gonna say much about it. You can probably find the episode online somewhere for free to watch if you really care enough to watch it. But basically, I didn't get the surgery because the doctor didn't deem me healthy enough. He thought that I was too thin, that I needed to gain weight. I mean, I wasn't surprised. I was hoping that he would still give me the surgery because I wanted it so bad. I still really want it, but now it's over. Now it's said and done, you know. I had an opportunity and I screwed it up with my eating disorder, so another thing that I just have to live with. After the show, I ended up kind of coming to the realization that maybe I did need help and maybe that things needed to change. I started recovery, and it was extremely difficult because for the longest time it had felt almost like it was my eating disorder and I against the world, which doesn't make any sense because your eating disorder is against you, but it likes to make you think that you guys are working together, but really it's working against you and it's trying to hurt you. It's trying to kill you, ultimately. Accepting recovery and accepting the fact that I needed help was kind of me realizing that that relationship was toxic. I'm gonna stop the video here. I know that I said that this video would be the last in the series, but I didn't realize how long this would be. I want to talk about my recovery in the next video and the lumpy bumpy road that it has been and all of the things that I've had to deal with in recovery, mentally, physically, all of it, and how everything changed basically after I kind of came to that realization and I accepted the help that everyone had wanted me to get a long time ago. I hope that you guys had a wonderful Thanksgiving. I'm really excited that Christmas is coming up. I love this time of year. I really want to do like a baking series maybe after this, show you guys my recipes and stuff that I make around the holidays and Christmas time and all that. I think that would be really fun to just share that. Let me know if that's something that you guys would be interested in. Other than that, stay tuned for next week's video where I talk about my recovery. And as always, stay strong in the fight against stupid eating disorders. Thank you guys so much for watching and supporting me and sending me all the love and comments. It means the world to me. I'll see you guys next week. Bye. I think Gavin wants to say hello again.
Oh.
He wants to be the center of attention. Don't you? He is a very handsome boy, isn't he? He's my handsome boy. We have to go.